Girlfriend is having new male friend over for Thanksgiving. I will be traveling for Thanksgiving this year with my family. My girlfriend told me yesterday that a male friend from college, who I've never heard of before, is going to visiting New York for Thanksgiving, since his sister lives here and they cannot go home to Budapest to be with their family. She said that she invited him over to her house for a Thanksgiving meal this year. Immediately after telling me he would be coming, asked me, "You won't be able to make it, right?" I responded, "Depends what time, I fly in that morning," to which she responded, "You'll probably be tired though." This raised a red flag in my head because 1. I've never heard of this guy. 2. She's really nonchalant about it, like it's not a big deal, and telling me about it right before I leave. It doesn't seem like she wants me there. It's one thing to hang out with him and sister for day, but I'm uncomfortable with a guy I've never heard her mention just coming over to her house for Thanksgiving, especially when I'm not going to be there. How should I bring up my concerns? Send her a message right now saying that you have confirmed the flight, you will be there at 11 a.m. and can't wait to spend the day and night with her and her family. Does this dude know you exist? Because she's pretty desperate for you two to not meet. That's the red flag. Yep. You nailed the sketchy parts. She basically disinvited you from Thanksgiving. More red flags than a Mayday parade. It was only a little odd until those follow-up questions. This put it over the top. This thing stinks, man. I'm sorry. Something is up and you already know it. Nah dude. She waited until the last second to spring it in you so you wouldn't have time to think about it and adequately respond. Further, she didn't give one flying fuck how you felt. This was happening whether or not you were cool with it. Yikes. Were you planning on going? Maybe you could just turn up since I'm guessing you were originally invited, but this may create an awkward time if there's not enough food and so on. I'd get on a call and be straight up. Hey, I don't know why, but something about this feels off. I first wanted to make sure I'm still invited to Thanksgiving. Wait for an answer, then depends what you say next. I haven't heard of this guy before. I was a little taken aback that you invited him over. It's a nice gesture for a friend, but I just wanted reassurance about it all. She's planning to fuck him. And you know it. Judging by your post history, if this is same girl you have been with for 4 months or new relationship, just break up and run. Make better decisions about who you date and get into relationships with. Don't ask for advice and then ignore it. My wife has gotten too fat and refuses to lose weight and is affecting our daughter. Hi, my wife of 14 years is around 400 pounds and refuses to lose weight. Whenever I bring it up, I immediately get shut down with comments like, "Don't you love me?" And I'm sick of it. Our daughter, who is massively obese thanks to my wife, is being affected. I've tried talking to my wife about being more active with her. She turns it down. She also keeps loads of junk food in the house and lets her eat all day long. As I'm posting on Reddit, I'm obviously desperate. I am considering divorce if she refuses to change. Don't you love me? Of course I love you. We can discuss our feelings for one another in a moment. Right now, I want to talk about your health, which I'm worried about because I love you. Every time your wife derails the conversation with, "Don't you love me?" or something similar, redirect it. We can talk about issue in a moment. Right now, I want to talk about your health. Don't talk about your daughter's health in that same conversation. That's another one of those things that you defer to in a moment if your wife brings it up. Focus on her health and how you're worried about her because you love her and want her to be well. Don't you love me? Is the most toxic and red flag answer of all. She has a right to do whatever she wants with her body, but she has no right to emotionally blackmail you into compliance. She also has a duty as a mother to look out for her kids' health. Not taking active steps to become healthier, thus enabling your daughter's morbid obesity, is child abuse. Insist on the two of them becoming healthier. Being chubby or even just fat is fine. Being morbidly obese and putting your family's health and/or sanity at risk with it is selfish and irresponsible. Get your daughter on a sport, and purge the house of all junk food. And get therapy. Let's make this clear. Your priority right now should be your daughter's health. You need to start taking measures like yesterday to prevent her from developing lifelong issues and a messed up relationship with food, if it's not too late already. She is not obese because your wife is too. She is obese because neither her mom nor her dad are taking good care of her. You say your wife lets her eat as much junk food as she wants, but what about you? Sounds like her obesity is a symptom of a bigger issue. Sorry, no pun intended. People that typically eat in excess, from what I've heard, are doing it to decrease pain and increase pleasure. You know, you have as much control over your daughter's eating habits as your wife. Why don't you take over the grocery shopping and meal planning? You can't stop your wife from bringing crap into the house, but you can get rid of it. You can prepare healthy meals for your daughter. You can model healthy behavior. You can talk about not good or bad foods but, sometimes, foods and everyday foods. Go for a walk with your daughter. Play outside with her. Kick the soccer ball with her. You can wrest control of your daughter's diet and health from your wife. Triple grammar whammy. My wife has gotten too fat and refuses to lose weight, which is affecting our daughter. Regardless, you need to protect your kid. I think you should put your child first and make it clear to your wife. I, 30 female, adopted my brother, 14 male. But he found out and wants to meet our father and sister. He was born my brother, but he's my son, so I don't want to call him that. To make it simple, I'll call him Jaden or son. Growing up was horrible for me. My parents hated me and the effort and money needed to do the bare minimum. It was just hell. When I was 16, Jaden was born. I basically had to raise him myself, between work and school. My parents divorced shortly after he was born and both refused to take him, because they did enough with me and wanted to be free. So at 18 I adopted him. They were happy to give him away, even prepared the paperwork and stuff, and I moved away with a friend. I never planned to tell Jaden the truth. His whole life I've been his mom, and he's been my son. That's how I see it, and was basically always the mother, even before I adopted him. They wanted nothing to do with him, and I know I'll never abandon my son, so I thought thinking you had a mom was better than no parents. As far as he was concerned, his father was nice but passed when I was pregnant. Since then I married my husband, and had 2 more children. I have zero contact or connection with any family other than my son. So my husband didn't know either, and has treated Jaden like a son. Jaden is now 14 and loves his stepdad, calls him dad, and is an amazing big brother. The 3 kids are super close. However, 2 months ago my sister reached out to me. Said she wanted to talk and meet me and Jaden, and that her father missed us and regrets not having a relationship. I've never met her, she must have been born after I left. I basically told she was mistaken and had the wrong person. I didn't feel it would be good to say the truth, given it sounded like she cares about her father. I blocked her and have tried to just ignore it. Unfortunately she also messaged Jaden. Apparently he didn't believe her, cause I'm mum, but he found it weird. He brought it up a few weeks ago, as a joke apparently, and I tried to just act confused, but I'm not a good actor. He said I basically went pale and was obviously hiding something. He brought it up again when we were alone and I explained it to him. That our parents sucked, but I loved him. That I adopted him, and he's my son whatever they say. He hasn't reacted well. He has basically ignored me since then, for the most part. My husband told me that he's just confused and needs some time. Jaden has talked to him about it. My husband wasn't happy I hid it, but he understands why I would. I really am lucky he's understanding. No one has told our daughters, but they've noticed him being distant to me. I'm sure they would love him no matter what, he'll always be their older brother. He was finally willing to talk a week ago, but said he wants to meet his biological father and our sister. He said that he understands if he can't, but I think that was for my sake rather than how he feels. I'm not sure what to do. I don't want father to hurt him, he was so willing to abandon Jaden before. He's my son, I love him and raised him and have to protect him. But it's family and he really wants to know them, or at least meet, and I have to admit our sister is innocent in this. But it means reconnecting with that abusive piece of shit, even if he's better now or whatever. What should I do? I'm just scared and confused. My husband has no idea and so far has just been play peacemaker. I want to do right by Jaden, but I am terrified that letting them meet will ruin everything. I'd be curious in how much your sister knows, considering she's like 11 years old tops. Has your dad been telling her she has a sister and a brother that aren't with him for whatever reason? If so, how much secrecy does your dad expect if he meets your son? You should let him meet them. He's 14, I would say different if he was younger. But I feel like he's old enough to process this, and if he doesn't meet them it's going to eat at him and he's going to blame you even if you just have his best interest at heart. I think you should let them meet, but set boundaries. IDK what those boundaries would be, but set them. Also, not in front of your son or anyone else. Remind your dad of why you left. Jaden is already hurt. I think making him wait until he's 18 to get answers will cause that pain to fester. I think you should look into family counseling in your area and see what they think is the best way to approach this. Get professional advice on what is the best way to do this. This situation is way above Reddit's pay grade. You guys all need to be in family counseling and Jaden needs to be in individual counseling immediately. Get off the internet and go talk to some professionals. Honestly, you should have told him the truth years ago. Finding out this way has scarred and traumatized him. You need to sit down and tell him everything, from the abuse to your parents handing him off to you to the fact that meeting with his bio dad and that part of the family would not be in both your best interests. But either way, he is not ever going to be able to look at you the same. There is no possibility that an adoption by an 18-year-old would be approved for a kid with 2 living parents. This post is complete fiction. So don't waste your time. You need to evaluate how mature your son is. Some 14-year-old can't handle things like this. If you believe he can process this, let him meet the family, but it has to be supervised by yourself. And before the meeting, sit down and talk to him about what happened and why you decided to adopt him. You also need to talk about what abusive behavior you experienced and let him know that if that happens in the meeting, you will stop the meeting immediately. It's important that he understands why you are worried and prepared, as he has likely not seen behavior like this before. I can't understand why any parent would give their own child away. Definitely consider therapy, as he could be dealing with emotions of being rejected. My 15 female sister, mom's 36 female husband, 40 male, found my journal and is threatening to kick me out. Hey, please excuse any grammatical errors, I'm just super pissed right now. If anyone needs more context, please just ask. Okay, so a little backstory before we start. My older sister is actually my biological mother. I've known ever since I was about 9. However, I have always, and got this day, referred to her as my older sister, so that's how I'll be referring to her in this story. I also have 3 younger biological half-siblings from her, 13 male, 8 male, 4 female. Me and my siblings used to live with my parents, bio-grandparents, but due to the fact that me and them don't get along for toxic reasons, I live with my sister and her husband. My sister is also currently 2 months pregnant. Okay, on to the story. As the story introduced, I like to write in a journal. I grew up in a household where having your own opinions and emotions that didn't line up with my parents were looked at as unimportant or seeking attention. Because I grew up with that, I never knew how to properly express my emotions verbally. So all my feelings, future plans, drama, etc. that I can't say out loud, I write it down, which helps a lot. My sister's husband and I never get along. If we ever seemed decently civil towards each other, it was all only for my sister's sake, because I love her so much. Her husband used to be an alcoholic but has been sober for a bit over a year, which is where my hatred began. I never liked the way he would talk to my sister when they got into fights. He always sounded like he thought he was some alpha and above her. He always worked, got home, sat and watched TV, while my sister cooked, cleaned, and served him. She never minds, but something about it just rubs me the wrong way. Ever since I moved in, about a year ago, I took in that role so my sister can have a break. I also love cleaning their place, so it's never a hassle. I do all the chores and never complain, they don't even have to ask me. Hell, I even serve him too and cook dinner and buy groceries. Thing is, I always catch him talking behind my back to her too and his kid, 18 male, saying I whine, and calling me a bitch, takes away my things without me knowing, etc. He doesn't like that I'm here and treats me as if I'm his kid. I make it very clear that I'm not, and he knows this and hates it. Well, a few hours ago, I came home to find him holding my journal. He started getting mad at me about how I could disrespect him, and write such bullshit about him in his own house. I remind him that this place is just as much as my sister's as it is his, and that no matter what he does, I'm not his daughter. He then starts flipping to pages that looked bookmarked, and lands on a page where I wrote how I want him nowhere near any graduations, or birthdays or wedding or anything like that concerning me. He gets mad and says since he's raising me, he has the right to attend whatever he wants. I told him that if he needs a 15-year-old girl to clean up after him, then it's more like I'm raising him. He then starts getting angry about how he even knows how I'm pro-choice. He never supported it, and that if I keep this disrespectful behavior up, then I can be disrespectful on the streets. I tell him there's no way my sister would agree, and that's he's bullshit crazy if he thinks he can do this for such a stupid reason. He says, "Watch me," and tore up my journal and threw it away. I am now in my room because he's forcing me to pack up my things. My sister is at work right now and won't be back for another few hours. I honestly don't know what to do and think he actually means it. Any advice would be so appreciated right now. Edit. Update in comments. Oh my god, I'm so sorry, Op. What an abusive poss. You don't deserve this. Definitely call your sister ASAP. Does your room have a lock? Just in case. Do you have a friend that's nearby? Call the police if he tries to throw you out. Be as safe as possible. Pack an emergency bag in case things go sideways, and let friends you trust know what's going on in case you end up needing a place to stay. Fuck that guy, seriously. Hey hun, so you are a minor and you likely count as a resident if you receive mail there, assuming you attend school, which means he has no legal bounds for this. Now let's double this with the fact he invaded your privacy and he is not discussing with his wife, your sister on this matter. I'd play the waiting game. I'm sorry you're in this situation, op. Please post an update. I hope you're safe. Call your sister now. Can you go to her work and wait for her? Lock yourself in your room until she is back? Go to a friend's perhaps? You said that your sister would have arrived in a few hours, and you wrote this 4 hours ago. How's the situation right now? Any important update you'd like to share? Call the cops and call your sister. Do not move.